There are times in life when you have to make choices of the path that you're on. Um, we have all had them and all will have more to come. And some at the time you thought wasn't right for you, but later turns out it was a blessing and vice versa. And as the leader of a group or a business or a club or a country or a family, you often have to make more choices than others. And many of those choices are not always universally popular. But someone has to set the choices, the guidelines, and the paths. But leaders are few and far between. The clowns have none. Jackasses haven't got a clue what they're doing, and they literally don't know how to fix this pandemic that came right from the top. So the fact that they've got no leaders means we have to produce them. And some may want it for the power, the status, and the ego. And there are some people that are natural leaders. And some are reluctant leaders. But all have one thing in common. They all become the shooting gallery targets. And the slightest thing goes wrong, you know. But leaders are essentially created by people as a vehicle to unleash their own lack of skills, their own lack of shadow work and unaddressed inner work upon them. And it then resembles the shooting gallery for people frustrated within and of themselves. Like the American government. You know, whichever decision Trump makes is wrong in the eyes of many. And people make snap judgments because their life isn't going particularly too well. And the sad thing is, and the core behind it all is that person themselves never did much to aid, help, or support those decisions made by others. And it's the same for Kim. Endless questions of why she's done this or why hasn't she done that, neglecting the fact that nobody really knows what she does, how she does it, or how this type of work at that level impacts your life. It's all too easy to say, why hasn't Kim done this or that? And because of the nature of the work, much of it is shrouded in secrecy. It has to be. It's the operational, with some love and some don't. But people often make snap decisions or judgments. But Kim did not get this work because she's unable to think for herself. And yet some of the recent comments of what she should have done was suggested that she's blatantly unable to think of basic solutions. And then people wonder why others react against that level of thinking. And the same applies to this group. There's only really one member outside of the admins knows the depth of the work, the levels of shenanigans and the day-to-day dealings that we have to put up with. People have no idea. And very few are fully aware of the day-to-day attacks either. And people seem to think that we're all there for their own benefit 24/7. That Thomas must answer all the questions and Ramona must fix this issue and Holly must do that. Forgetting that the people who run this group all sacrifice their own time for your benefit. And it largely becomes a thankless task. Now, our group does have a lot more flexibility than some people's recent drama-based antics would have you believe. Riddled with their own judgments, never seek counsel or support to make a better decision or judgment, and would sooner go off and rant without knowing over 80% of what takes place behind the scenes. And this applies in business also. And this is why we introduced the cooperative model, where everyone's sharing. No one knows the pressures that people are under, and yet all will fire at one person or others for all the ills of not only the job, but their own family life or society ills. And of course, more recently, are the recent global struggles due to the fake pandemic, of how quite a few people have gone off the rails and they throw the blame onto the nearest leader they can find. Because someone has to take the blame for that person's ills. You know, we've all done it. But in overview, whether it's inside a business or judging a government, we always have to ask the question of ourselves, what have you done to correct those ills? Most just pass judgment. Is that not the case? And yet few come up with solutions and their own role in how poor their own government is. And life and judgments, more often than not, the problem is in the mirror. The problem is you and us. As too many of us dissolve our own responsibility, and some may not like that statement, but the reality is it's true of all of us. Otherwise, the world would be a much better place. And this is what we're striving for with THI and the People's Club. Yesterday, I spent near 7 hours on 2 calls. And it was delightful to hear the input of people and the joy to see of how they are getting involved and what they are planning and what they're doing. Now, the first was our business team, who engage each other of how to develop the TPC model, and they are also preparing part 3 of the TPC model, which will be done and read out by Alan of the Circle of White Light, not me. And we added another member to that team yesterday. So I want to say thanks to Alan, Mark, Liam, Lawrence, and also Emma for their work on that. Now, yesterday I advertised on MeWe, do any of the state groups have any small funding projects ready? And 2 groups stepped up. And I ended up on the second call last night with THI California. And unlike some other groups, they heard the message loud and clear last week, grasped it, and have been carrying on as normal, with renewed awareness of how to protect their group. And you know, in a world of snap judgments, armies of critiques and do-nothings, it was refreshing and pleasing to see a very nice tight-knit group, all with wonderful input and insight of how we all go forward together. So we discussed in length a few small projects of how they may start off small, but expand into something much larger. And we will have further discussions on that soon, and it will be revealed in the show. We're going to start adding more about what we're doing with the TPC into the shows. And I'm also pleased that other groups also received the announcement last week in the correct manner as well. But there'll always be some who don't hear or listen properly and only wish to use it as a platform to blame somebody else. Well, ignorance is a choice these days. And this is why we suggested with the groups revolving the leader's role so everyone gets an idea of what each role entails. And I would love some of mine and our critiques to come and do our job for a day. Few would last more than half a day. Wells the Fargo would be the most common saying, I can tell you. But as leaders, all will have to make decisions they don't particularly like for the greater benefit of the all. And you will always have your critiques. That's par for the course. But I wonder how many listening to this would tolerate your every word, decision, lifestyle, financial situation, love partner situations, and general decision making under a microscope 24/7, with little or no time to think for yourselves, as everyone expects or wants something from you all day, every day. Be honest now. How many of you would want to live that life? And the answer is a resounding no. And yet these are the same people who sit there just critiquing everything, yet wouldn't tolerate my role or Kim's role for a single hour. You know, I have to make a lot of calls and have much demand on me for the plethora of roles and functions I do. Do I make all calls or decisions correct? No. Does anybody else make all calls or decisions correct? No again. So why do these people expect everyone else to be perfect when they or nobody else is perfect either? It's unrealistic expectations. But it was absolutely fantastic to see how the ones that I've spoken to in this past week, of how THI California, Arizona, New York and Oregon took last week's decision in a sensible, rounded and adult manner, and pushed on with their ideas, plans and projects, while others took it as an opportunity to jump out at the first hurdle and dissolve their own responsibility and place blame elsewhere for their decisions. But my focus is not on them. Essentially, taking the decision to close down the THI state groups had to be made. There was no other choice due to the volumes of issues. But the ones who are really committed carried on as normal, and the ones who are not didn't. So in essence, it became a thinning of the herd between those who are committed and those who are playing at it. Thankfully, most were and have shown that they are committed, and that pleases me no end. But sometimes people forget the old adage, is you can't please all of the people all of the time. I have to live by that mantra virtually every minute of my day. But to the critiques, could you? What we need more of is providing solutions, and I'm pleased many of you have continued to do that. This is a group where everything is free, unlike some who have charged $80 to $200 for funds that don't yet exist. We at THI will continue to do things the right way, regardless of critics. And as we wrap up the show with the final song, it's a reminder to us all, and it's a question all of you have to address to yourselves. And in essence, it all comes down to this, of not only how did you, but have you, are you, and are you even capable of it as well?